The Stuart Highway will reopen to trucks and emergency services vehicles tomorrow morning, restoring the main road link between South Australia and the Northern Territory. More than a metre of water has been slowly receding since heavy rains fell around Glendambo in South Australia's north more than a week ago. The South Australian government says four-wheel drives and other high-clearance vehicles will be able to use the road from Tuesday. Initially, it will only be open to one vehicle at a time during daylight hours, alongside a police escort.
As of 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we will start some restricted travel across the Stuart Highway north of Glendambo for heavy vehicles and emergency services vehicles only. This will be extraordinarily well controlled, one vehicle at a time through the centre of the road and only operational between sunrise and sunset.
As floodwaters from heavy rains continue to recede in Central Australia, outback communities in South Australia and the Northern Territory are counting on authorities to reopen transport routes so they can restock essential supplies. The Defence Force has been providing emergency food and transport support to the town of Coober Pedy. But as Patrick Martin reports, it's expected to take weeks to restore roads and railways damaged by floodwaters.
The main highway connecting Adelaide to Coober Pedy and the Northern Territory has been closed for more than a week after flooding rain swept across South Australia's north. That's made the Coober Pedy Airport a hub of activity. With the key supply route blocked, the Defence Force has been flying food and other essential supplies here to the mining town to keep it stocked. There has been talk of the Defence Force flying out stranded travellers, but so far that's not happened. There has been some criticism from locals here who say more trucks should have been allowed to drive through the floodwaters to deliver much needed supplies throughout Central Australia. But South Australian authorities have warned driving through floodwaters is risky and could lead to more damage to roads. Further north, road closures have also cut access to some remote Aboriginal communities in the APY lands. Key supplies have been flown to the community of Pipliajara, and emergency services are on standby to provide more to other communities if needed. It's expected to take weeks to repair the damaged roads. The Australian Rail Track Corporation is working to repair damaged tracks that connect South Australia to WA and the NT. That work isn't expected to be finished before the middle of this month. Patrick Martin, ABC News, Coober Pedy.
For the latest on road closures, please check with transport authorities in South Australia and the Northern Territory. Well, residents in the remote communities of the APY lands in South Australia's northwest are among those that have been cut off by floodwaters. To tell us more about contingencies to keep shelves stocked with essential supplies, we are speaking to Maywiru Regional Stores Aboriginal Corporation Chief Executive Dennis Bate. Welcome to Regional News, Dennis Bate. Just how well supplied at this stage are those communities that remain cut off by floodwaters?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, at the moment, most of our stores are very well stocked. Obviously, we are low on some products and some ranges, but basically our stores are fairly well stocked at this point. If we don't get stock in sort of early mid next week, we will be in a little bit of trouble.
Well, in terms of, that need to get food and stocks in, what is involved in keeping supplies coming in?
We're actually running a truck out of Adelaide right the way through to up through Mount Isa and then down to Alice Springs. So we've got a triple road train going that way to make sure we get some food and supplies in there. We've also had to fly food into Pipliajara, one of our stores, and we're working with government bodies to make sure that if the roads don't open, that we can get flights in there. But the roads are drying out on the APY lands, we've heard this morning. So hopefully in a few days we'll get trucks back in that way.
And what additional resources might be needed to see communities through this situation, particularly if we have bad weather continuing? And of course, those damaged roads and rail links, they will continue to be cut off.
Yeah, exactly. The only option we'll have is to fly food in like they're doing in Coober Pedy at the moment. That will be our only option, because when the roads are cut, the roads are cut. But, fingers crossed, the rain's gone and we can get a chance to get some food back into our stores.
Now, what might this mean for, just keeping those communities operational? I imagine that putting in place these extra contingencies, there'll be extra freight costs involved, petrol prices, finding, enough staff. What sort of extra resources and financial strains is that putting on the corporation?
It's massive. It really is. We're looking to try and get some support from the government and other statutory bodies, but at the moment that's kind of down the track. What we've got to do is work on making sure that we get the food out there first. The cost we'll deal with at a later point when everybody's being fed and looked after and the rain stops.
And Denis Bate, it's already been a very tough time with widespread supply chain and other issues from the pandemic. So that's, 2 years already. What sort of challenges do you think are out there for Maywirra in the weeks and even the months ahead?
Staffing is always a very, very big problem with Maywirra. That's with all organisations basically in the same area, but basically staffing and staffing generally across Australia. I mean, getting truck drivers to drive our trucks up to the lands and what have you, that's becoming a bit of an issue now.
Do you think perhaps that on the flip side of this situation, that maybe this will highlight some needs that, perhaps we could have better awareness of what the situation is like, just how challenging it is for those remote communities?
Oh, it definitely will bring awareness, but at the end of the day, it's all going to be about priorities and where money is going to be spent and who wants to put their hand up to do it. We try to be very self-sufficient because there's not a lot of money out there to be given to organisations like ourselves. So we try and do whatever we can to stay on top of this ourselves.
Well, you are proving very resourceful at this time, and we do appreciate you taking the time to speak to us as well here on Regional News. Denis Bate, Chief Executive there of Maywirra, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for your time.
Communities on the western side of Queensland's Gulf of Carpentaria have also been cut off from flooded river systems. Heavy isolated falls in northwest Queensland over the past few days have damaged roads, leaving access to the Berkshire in the Gulf and the Doomadgee Aboriginal Shire cut, possibly for weeks. Century Mine at Lawn Hill recorded 217 millimetres over 7 days, while Burketown had 146 millimetres. The slow-moving flows are clogging up river systems, with the Gregory River flowing above 12 metres. The region is known for its dry floods, where major flooding occurs without much rain. Emergency supplies have been flown into the communities and surrounding properties.